You had a great idea, Tony, but my suit is more advanced in every way.
How would you solve the icing problem?
Icing problem?
Might want to look into it.
After you listen to this episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Systems Online. Reflux capacitor fluxing. Scanning room space-time for Iron Man 2008. Rewinding in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your Exo in mind, Paul, the Paul J. Powers, maybe sometimes an Ironman.com Powers.
That's a long web address.
Yeah, fair point.
But why, for the people who don't know, why are we covering Iron Man? That seems like a recent movie. Is that retro?
Yes, recently retro. And also, Daryl, who's here, who we're about to introduce, picked it because he's one of our reflux capacitors, the people that make this podcast journey possible. He supports us, the show, and he has his turn to pick. So thank you, Daryl. And does that answer your question, Paul?
Because it's like this movie's like 100 years old, right?
It's 15 years old or more. So 15 years old now.
Oh, okay.
I was still in my early 30s, just a pup.
Well, also for this discussion of the film Iron Man, as previously said, we welcome back aboard ship's entertainer, Daryl Hafner. Welcome, Daryl.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and Daryl, this is actually your 6th time on the show, which means you are promoted to chief entertainer. Congratulations.
All right.
Yeah. And in addition to Daryl, we're glad to have back aboard video editor, and host of the Fandom Nexus podcast, Jeremy the Spider Pan. Hey, Jeremy.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. And now that you have a quick flyby of who we all are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for Iron Man 2008, Robert Downey Jr., directed by Jon Favreau, also has Jeff Bridges in it, not the Avengers, not Iron Man 2, not Iron Man video game, not the old 60s show.
This is the Disney movie, The Rocketeer, right?
No!
Oh, come on. He's flying. Oh, hold on. All right. Dances with Wolves. Wait, sorry. I rewound too far. That's the last episode. Hold on.
I was going to say, that was last week.
All right. Iron Man Armored Adventure.
No!
Came out in November 21st, 2008.
So close. So close.
It's Iron Man, right? 2008, you said, I thought.
The movie, not a game or an animated movie.
That could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
All right. Iron Man was released April 30th, 2008. Runs 6 minutes over the 2-hour mark.
Indeed.
It was rated PG-13. It was directed by Elf Jon Favreau.
Wait, did he direct Elf also?
He did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was written by Mark Fergus, Hawk Ostby. Sorry, Hawk, I missed your little sound effect there. Where is that?
It's on the button.
There we go. And Art Markham, with lead stars being Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard, Jeff Bridges, and the music was composed by Ramin Djawadi. A Jawa guy. Anyway,
yeah, that guy. Sure.
Are you ready for the box office trivia?
I am ready. Jeremy and Daryl, are you ready?
Yep.
I suppose I am.
Awesome. And anyone in chat who's not a bot, you're welcome to join in as well. Paul, go for it, Paul.
All right. Iron Man was made for about $140 million and earned over $585 million at the box office.
Well done, Iron Man.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
So
That's Tony Stark money.
Yeah. Given this fact, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the movies released theatrically in 2008? We'll go for the top 50.
Top 50. All right. Daryl, what is your guess?
Number 5.
Number 5. Okay. Jeremy, how about you?
I can't think of anything else that came out that year, so I'm going to say number 2.
Number 2. I was about to say, Paul, what's your guess? But you know the answer. In chat, we have Sean saying he loves your voice, Jeremy. He also guesses 1. Bobo guesses 4.
Dale guessed 5 as well.
Thank you. I just saw that now. Dale guesses 5. I am going to I would choose 1, but I'm going to go 3 since it hasn't been picked. So, Paul, where did Iron Man actually end up?
Well, since it was 2008, if you had guessed 8, you would have been correct.
Oh, really? 8?
Oh, wow.
Huh. Do we get
what was
previous
number 1 in 08?
What beat it? Maybe The Dark Knight? Or
The Dark Knight was number 1.
Okay,
I figured there'd be at least one thing.
Yeah.
Well, then there was the fan fiction movie of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that came in at number 2.
Oh, yeah. I've
We
heard
pretend that movie doesn't
about
exist.
that. Yeah, weird.
Even though I was at the theater opening day, I actually have video of us going there. We went right before we went. That was my 5-year anniversary was that year. We went to see that movie. Then the next day we left on a trip together, my wife and I.
Oh,
There you go.
very nice.
Memories.
Indeed.
We forget about my best friend's ex-wife being there, but when they were still dating too, because we ignore that she exists now too. Long, complicated story that we don't want to talk about here. But yes.
Thank you for those factoids of your life there, Jeremy, and also Paul about Iron Man. And let's see if any of the factoids about Iron Man factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we'll get into once Alice has looked at our target film.
Alert. Target located. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
What are you building, Stark?
I'm working on something big. Yeah, I can fly. I just finally know what I have to do.
Thank you, Chris Cornell. I can't remember what the name of that band was, but oh my goodness, that was some good music there.
Well, I don't know. I know Black Sabbath did the Iron Man song, but is that who you're talking about or someone else?
Yeah.
No, that's not.
Yeah, Chris Cornell. He was the singer for Soundgarden, and that was the second band he was together with.
Okay.
I believe it had members of. Rage Against the Machine, I think, with Chris Cornell was this other band that put together the music you were hearing back there was them. And I cannot think of the name of that band.
Oh, nice.
Gotcha.
They had a few good hits before Chris Cornell passed away, unfortunately. But yes, rock trivia, good stuff.
There you go. Now, that commercial or your Chris Cornell music may have brought back some memories for you about Iron Man. But what things did we collectively remember about this film before our rewatch of it? Let's find that out in our memory mind meld synopsis of Iron Man. Charlie Chaplin, is a lord of war, but is captured by terrorists whose son was killed by one of his bombs. So he builds an arc reactor in a cave and realizes he needs to beat his sword into plowshares. And Jensen sacrifices himself to be with his dead family. Tony Stank takes out a tank, then comes home to find out that the creator of Tron is his enemy. In the end, he defeats Clue in a battle of Rock'em Sock'em robots. Wow. I guess some elements of that were correct, but mostly we were decepted.
Yeah, especially considering Flynn didn't create Tron.
Yeah.
Well,
Alan did.
He did create Clue, though.
Yeah.
But based on those memories, as flawed as they were, what rating did they lead you to predict for Iron Man before your rewatch? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? Let's start with Jeremy this time. What was your prediction for Iron Man?
Classic.
What?
I really couldn't go any other direction. I mean, this is the movie Marvel decided to produce themselves because they didn't have licensing for two of their top brands with X-Men and Spider-Man. This is the movie that cemented that they could make a movie that made Disney take a good look to buy the Marvel brand so they could produce more movies.
Yeah.
That says classic to me right there.
All right. Very cool. Daryl, what was your prediction?
Classic. This is what kicked off the whole MCU, so it's kind of hard to. It would have been like a make or break if this movie had failed. Who knows if we would have gotten any of the others.
Absolutely.
It would have been like those like Captain America movies we saw on TV. Like,
and the like early 90s, late 80s, something like that.
Yeah. Early 70s even.
Paul, how about you? What was your prediction?
I remember enjoying this in the theater, and I've seen it like once or twice since then. So I predicted classic.
Classic. For me, it's actually been, I think I saw this in the theater, and I don't think I had seen it since. So I predicted tragic, because why would I ever want to, just kidding. I predicted classic as well, guys, because I remember enjoying it, thinking it was going to be, I was hoping it was going to be a fun time again. So we'll see if those predictions pan out. But first, let's get into things we liked most about Iron Man. Let's kick up our
Best bits.
Thank you, Alice. And let's begin with our guests as we like to. Daryl, what is one thing you liked about Iron Man?
I'm going to call it, for lack of a better term, Tony's training montage. Just like when he gets back and he does all the actual building and everything, like where he takes his original suit, basically wipes it from the screen and starts again from the ground up. Just, I mean, because he's not doing like your typical training montage. He's not doing the fighting and everything. So like, I picture that scene as his training montage. He's
Absolutely.
getting out all the
Where he's yelling at his AI dummy robot.
yeah, pretty
Bring
much.
over that fire extinguisher, and I'm not on fire. I'm going to donate you. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, that leads into like his first suit up in the Mach 2, where like he steps in and it all just comes together real.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
The
Before
first
the paint
time the
job,
helmet
yes.
drops in and everything, it's one of those classic movie moments where
Absolutely.
it's kind of hard to top.
Yep.
Yep, I was actually thinking of that today. That's a great moment because you've got that learning curve where when he gets into the suit, he makes mistakes, and when he's building, he makes mistakes.
Yeah.
As he slowly learns how to make it work. Even though he built it, he's still got to get used to how to fly and learn stuff by nearly going into space and icing it up. I mean, I love that he's got to learn and he's got to grow.
Oh yeah, he doesn't go like yes, he is a genius, but right to the top tier thing. It takes work. It takes there's a learning curve even for someone like him.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Makes it relatable.
Jeremy, was that one of your likes as well?
No, it's something I thought of today, but my first like that I put down was the armor design. Because if you look at like some of the original comics, where they like the yellow or orange, it just kind of used to look like muscle and arm. And I love that this kind of took the approach of a realistic, making it believable that, okay, well, this is supposed to be solid metal, but it needs to have some flexibility.
Yeah.
And the design was just flipping brilliant. It looked good, and so much to where the comics, of course, started adapting. So, let's put a little bit of a, texture for the, you can see where the metal meets metal and where there might be a little bit of a joint there for where if you were doing like this, I'm demonstrating on the camera, that you could actually move. There's some flexibility in there to where he wouldn't have to be like a stiff, clunky kind of thing.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic, and it is pretty neat. I remember watching. They had some test footage that kind of got leaked, where they had Robert Downey Jr. and they had a bit of a mock-up where they had some upper body, but then the rest of them they had some motion capture, so they could actually use computer to put the armor on him. And it was such a brilliant job on the computer that you couldn't tell. I mean, he just looked like he was wearing that suit of armor. They did such a great job, for the believability. So that's definitely got to be something I liked about it.
And I mean, most of the effects still hold up.
Yeah. And I was going to say that's one of my likes was actually the overall production design of this movie. I loved the design of the Iron Man suit. I know it's certainly a lift from the comics, but they did a great translation. They really plussed it up, I feel like, for the movie. I loved his whole setup, or his whole base of operations is his mansion and where his workshop. I thought I have one thing that I thought was a little lacking in terms of production design, which I'll get into later, but I thought everything was made really well. His internal heads-up display that with the incorporated Jarvis was so cool. I see that in so many things nowadays. They rip off the Iron Man looking around at your internal HUD. Because it was, and I think that's because it's done so well that, you want to emulate that. So that was one of my likes. Paul, how about you?
I enjoyed the music, especially during the montages. Really? Yeah. Like when he's coming out of the cave or when he's putting on the suit, they have that really rockin' music. It could have easily, like, if you put like a silly song in there, like it would just totally ruin it. Like imagine coming out of the cave and hearing.
I knew it was coming.
So I really think the music really enhances the film. It just really brings it up another level.
Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback, Paul, because I wouldn't say there's anything really hummable about.
No. It's not. It doesn't have the classic theme. Marvel really is of all their Universal movies. Like I still think the Spider-Man theme song from the 70s is better than all of them.
The Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to go with the Danny Elfman theme, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Danny Elfman nailed the Spider-Man theme. Just awesome.
I mean, I think Danny Elfman's nailed the Batman theme more than any of his themes.
Yes, but you better believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about Tony Stark in Gotham. We're talking about Tony Stark in Malibu, which is weird.
Yeah, which is weird.
New York.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's
go back there eventually.
That's true. Let's go back to Daryl. What's something else you enjoyed about this film?
Somebody mentioned the effects, but I know very little, but the CGI that I assume they had to use and everything, it looked seamless. It looked good.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Just like, I mean, when he's flying and everything, obviously none of that can be practical, but it looked great. Just overall, the effects and everything, like I think Paul said, it still holds up.
Yep. Absolutely.
And, I mean, yes, that's 2008, so they had, I don't think it was new thing, but to hold up, 16 years later?
Yeah.
It's impressive.
It is very impressive. Absolutely. I feel like
to be the.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, to be their first, like, big budget for Marvel and to get it that good, I'll say first try. It's
first
impressive.
try.
Yeah, that's the. Sorry, if anybody remembers Marvel from like the early 2000s, they were kind of like on the verge of bankruptcy. They were struggling. How did they raise $140 million to make this film? Is beyond me.
The Ultimate Universe. They rebooted their more popular lines because they thought, okay, we need to get new readers in. So, plus you did have a pretty successful deal. And they made some really good deals. Unfortunately, lost licensing to some of their characters for their use with Spider-Man, doing that deal with Sony.
And
that brought in a lot of money for Marvel. So it just meant, unfortunately, when they decided they wanted to make their own movies, that they really couldn't use Spider-Man or the X-Men. But you did have some successful movies that did really help out. But they made a lot of money on the Ultimate line, which it took me a while as an old school Marvel guy to get into the Ultimate line. But they had actually a great writer and a very great artist, Mark Bagley, which I've gotten to meet before working on Spider-Man, doing Ultimate Spider-Man. And I actually really enjoyed that book. So they made a few good moves to really kind of get themselves going after filing the bankruptcy. So,
okay, nice. Very cool. But
they have a comic nerd in here.
But so, Gerald, the effects really hold up for you as your next like. Awesome.
Even if we're laughing about the Nokia phone not holding up anymore, it's like, whoa, look at that old thing.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy, what's something that did hold up that wasn't a Nokia phone for you?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit repetitive and say like the music, because I like that there's a little bit of that electronica going on behind these solid guitars, but also I got to give them some praise that when you get into the casino scene. Speaking of an old classical theme from the 60s, you actually hear in like a very jazzy mix of Tony Stark makes you feel he's a cool exec with a heart of steel. And you don't hear the lyrics, but you hear it in the tune. So I kind of dug that they kicked it in really hard and everything. I kind of jazzing it in the casino. And I was like, yeah. So
I think they also include that in Rhodey's ringtone, I want to say. The old Iron Man theme. Yeah.
got a little bit of it.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Let's see, Paul, what's something else you liked?
Speaking of the music, I thought the editing was really well done. A lot of the scenes, and like we said, the montages really held up because it's quick editing. And if that was...
It held the pace really well.
Yeah.
It did not feel like a 2-hour movie.
Right. And so, I mean, even at the very end where Tony says,
I am Iron Man.
And then roll credits and the music blast. I mean, it is just edited so well. Like,
yes.
boom, it's,
Let's get our Beavis and Butthead on.
Oh, my word. Okay, then that leaves one more like for me before I get to our classic makers. And in a similar way to yours, Jeremy, I believe it was, I really enjoyed how Tony is set up at the beginning. Like the way they introduce him as just this like as he's just in the Humvees and then the explosion happens. We don't know what's happening is like really throws you into action really well. You get some sense of his character and then it goes back like 36 hours and you get a much better sense of like, yeah, he's this playboy. He just doesn't care too much about things or just cares about earning money, whoever he has to sell weapons to or whatever. But then when he's in the cave and he has that, those interactions with, Jensen, I think is the character's name.
Yeah.
And he just grows so much and becomes, there's so much growth that happens there that is just so interesting to see. And it doesn't feel forced or contrived, which is amazing. I feel like most movies fumble that nowadays. Get that wrong. And especially given that short amount of time. But it's really cool how you see him grow as a character as he's building the Iron Man and how that's growing. And that continues on into when he's in Malibu and making the actual Mark II suit. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the film.
He's given a new heart in a lot of ways. Spiritual content there.
Yeah, I'm going to have some stuff to say about that later. But now let's go to our classic makers, the things we liked most about Iron Man. I'm going to start with Paul this time. What did you love most about this film?
To me, it's the cast, and it's just like Robert Downey Jr. is that character, or Iron Man is Downey. Whatever it is, it's a good match. And no disrespect to Don Cheadle or Mint, but Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard, that's it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I enjoy his performance so much more as Rhodey. I wish he could have continued on that, but it was great to see all the characters, like Agent Coulson, like all the minor ones, and Paul Bettany as
Jarvis,
as Jarvis, and it was great to see all the actors before knowing where their characters go. In this film,
absolutely,
was really cool. It was great cast.
Even though if it was weird for me that Jarvis was not a human being that I was expecting the butler Jarvis, and then suddenly it's a computer program this time. Okay, but they made it work. I love the way they adapted it to Vision later because I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to go next because mine is pretty much Jeremy's from his first like, but I so enjoyed the continuation of Tony's growth in his montage, seeing how he had this playful attitude with his AI robot guys and was just feeling like he's just like, okay, I gotta keep pushing myself. Gotta keep going. I just watched an episode. I'm guesting on another podcast where we're going through Cobra Kai season 2 right now. And
how dare you cheat on me?
And for those that have watched through Cobra Kai, this is the episode where you see it where Johnny is having his Cobra Kai students move the cement mixer, and he says, "If you're not moving forward, you're just gonna stagnate, or you're gonna die," something like that. And exactly. And this I felt like there's that same attitude to Tony. It's like he just has to keep pushing himself. I feel like he's and included with his alcoholism, he's a workaholic. So I think that's not a great thing, but I appreciate his desire for excellence and his desire to try to especially when he gets to this point where he wants his life to mean something. I think that's fantastic. So,
but one of those hash browns at the end, like hash brown Team Cobra Kai or something. And then send it to the internet.
Exactly. Okay. So that's my classic maker. Let's go to Jeremy next. What did you love most about Iron Man?
Well, to borrow off of Paul a little bit with the cast, but I specifically said Robert Downey flippin' Jr. And this was his comeback after he, very similar to Tony Stark, had a rough patch. I think he did a little bit of jail time, had some problems, I think, with some drugs, some alcohol, and this was his comeback. So it was perfect for him. He totally understood the character where he was coming from because he's lived it in his own way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he is a brilliant, in his own way, a creative genius. I mean, speaking of Charlie Chaplin, the performances he's given in his lifetime, he is a very talented actor. He's fantastic. And so putting him in there where he could understand the character, there was just nobody else can play that role now. I mean, he's just nailed it. It's like Michael Keaton as Batman. You just can't replace him.
Exactly.
I'm going to get heat for that one, I know. But, come on. And the one thing also I noticed, the comics sometimes, if you read some of the early Iron Man, or not early, I guess I'll say, it's not quite the humorous take that we have, but Robert Downey Jr., the way he played it, like the animation and the comics will start to reflect that a little bit because, that's personality traits that kind of make sense for Tony Stark. But you see in the comics where that little bit of sense of humor comes out a lot more. So Doctor Strange has got a lot more sense of humor than he used to. Right. So they take things that they put in the character to make him more entertaining in a movie and say, you know what, that works. And they said, let's make the comic reflect that a little bit more. So he was so good that, even from future animation, anytime you see Tony Stark in a cartoon now, you can get that Robert Downey Jr. vibe from it.
Yeah.
So he was a phenomenal guy and just great.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing rumors that he might actually find a way to come back. I'm like, please do.
No,
But I'm not going to spoil his sacrifice. Doesn't mean as much.
If he did sacrifice himself, no, we're not spoiling later. But just saying.
Yeah, of course not. Had a few years to see that. Now it's allowed.
Yeah.
Well, I only saw it 3 years ago, and it came out. I feel like it's almost retro at this point. But Daryl, that leaves you. What is your classic maker for Iron Man?
Yeah, I think we're all similar, except for. I said Tony's, I'll call it his loyalty. He was put in with Jensen, but in just a short amount of time, I need him. He's defending him. He's stay behind me. We're going to get out of here.
Yeah.
He gets back home and he's loyal as much as you find out later he butted heads with his dad. As soon as he finds out that something's going on within his company, he's like, no. And he wants to clean it up. And for good or for bad, he gets, I'll call it hyper focused. And there is nothing else. It is the next mission. I am cleaning up this mess above anything else. And in some ways that's good. Other ways it can be a problem.
Absolutely.
But even through his escapades and everything, if you're one of his people, he will be there for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I find that cool. Even early when he is that, you can see that seed of loyalty in the beginning. Yes, he is the playboy. He's doing what he does, but when somebody's there helping him out, like Jensen was, I've got your back.
Yeah, totally.
Even when he is the playboy, use him and you lose him, whatever. He does have a sense of loyalty in him.
Absolutely,
even early on.
Totally see that. Awesome, guys. Well, those are the things we liked about Iron Man, but there's probably some things we didn't like about Iron Man. No movie is perfect, even though Paul will probably say Princess Bride is perfect, but he's wrong. He's wrong.
Am I, though?
No. One of these days, Paul, we really? Prove it to you.
Well, that's your opinion.
But, okay. But
anybody want a peanut? Okay.
There's probably some things that we didn't like about Iron Man, so we'll get into those. Sorry, guys. Yes, you're right. I forgot, Vabo. I'm so sorry. Forgot one more thing I like that I did want to share, and that would be Junkyard Juggernauts. The king and queen have disappeared. A warlord is enslaving the land, and their only hope is you and the Junkyard. Junkyard Juggernauts is a pixel art infused tabletop board game for 1 to 4 players, designed by Francisco Ruiz. That's me. You will play as a Mageneer, drafting cards to build the arms and legs of a magic-fueled mech, aka a Juggernaut, before taking on the warlord. With an expected crowdfunding campaign at the end of 2024, there is still plenty of work to be done on Junkyard Juggernauts, and if you want to stay in the know by signing up, you can sign up to the newsletter at junkyardjuggernauts.com.
Because I'm the Juggernaut, snitch.
Wow.
Which? Whatever. We won't say the line he says in there, but I don't. That line did crack me up in that movie. Different movie though. Yeah, it's still Marvel.
That's great, Francisco. What does that have to do with Iron Man?
I thought that was kind of obvious, Paula. He's putting together. Tony puts together his suit. You're putting together a Juggernaut. Juggernaut's also a Marvel character, even though it's not related at all. There's lots of tie-ins here. He's got a big metal
helmet.
I like Tony's building up the Iron Man suit. I like that in Junkyard Juggernauts. I build up my Juggernaut mech.
But what is that? Wasn't in the movie. Like Junkyard Juggernauts wasn't in the movie.
I guess that's true.
Well, there's my tragic maker. That game was not in the movie. That's tragic.
There you go.
All right, Paul. You know what? That's fair. How about some trivia about Iron Man?
Oh,
would that be okay?
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, guys. Did you all realize that this is the last film special effects expert Stan Winston completed before his death?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I did not know.
And for some reason, I thought he had died previous to this, but yeah, that's a.
Well, how long were they working on this movie? Maybe.
Okay, good point. But my question to you all is, what is your favorite monster, quote unquote, that Stan Winston worked on for a movie? And I'm going to start with Paul.
Okay. I've heard that name thrown around for decades. But
Stan Winston?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And his Creature Shop. I know what he does. I know what he's. But can you rattle off a few examples?
Sure. Jurassic Park T-Rex, the Terminator exoskeleton, Predator. He worked on some of the stuff in the Abyss, I believe. This movie, Iron Man, he directed and also did the creature effects for Pumpkinhead.
Is that the Return to Oz?
No, not so much. Aliens. He did the Alien Queen.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that come to mind.
Well, for the ones you listed, I'm going to have to go with the T-Rex because as much as that was like a giant sponge for the water effects and was turned into a little granny shaking because it held up, it didn't work as well with all the water on it. I just think it's that size that they were able to recreate for that movie. That's really impressive.
Absolutely. Okay. Very, very fair. Jeremy, what's your favorite Stan Winston monster?
I wrote down the T-Rex as well.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Good answer.
Because as soon as I saw Jurassic Park on the list, I'm like, well, that's got to be it. I mean, Alien was pretty cool, and the Terminator exoskeleton was pretty cool, but come on, that big, massive T-Rex. If that scene had not have worked, Jurassic Park would have failed.
Yeah,
most likely.
I mean, that's where the tension really begins, is when that T-Rex comes out. Now, granted, you got a lot of CG in there, but that live-action T-Rex and what they were able to do with that robot in between, getting it watered down.
And the close-ups and everything.
Oh, my goodness. Terrified me as a kid.
Indeed.
Now I just love it.
And how about you, Daryl?
So I'll be honest, I had to look him up when you sent the thing. But one of the things I was looking at his credits, I'll be honest, I've not seen any of the Terminators.
Oh, really? Okay.
In movies and stuff. But one of the things that I did see on his list was Batman Returns, and he did the Penguin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says special penguin makeup and effects was one of his credits. So, well, yes, the Jurassic Park and everything was cool. Like, I wanted to pick something that was a little different.
Yeah.
And I thought that one was pretty interesting. So he did the effects in Batman.
You can almost tell it's not Danny DeVito.
Almost.
And he probably had a lot also to do with the robotic penguins that they used when they were carrying the rockets and stuff.
Yeah, probably.
That's definitely his wheelhouse. So I'd say, you got to give him credit because they were believable. Sure, they were.
Yeah, and then let's see in chat. Free Hugs is asking if he did Aliens from Alien. I think he did. If he did the original Alien, I'm not sure in the movie Alien. But he might have. I'm not exactly sure though.
I know the drawings, the original artwork was somebody else.
That was H.R. Geiger.
But,
I'm not sure who did design the very first Alien. Let's see. And then Sean says, I'd answer the Terminator skeleton. It's just classic. Yeah, that's kind of the one I would go with, is the Terminator T800 or T100 skeleton. I thought that was
the T800.
Really well done. Well,
the T1000 was the liquid one.
No. The T100 was just the exoskeleton with no skin.
Without the skin.
The T800 was the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. I may be getting those confused, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And then yes, the T1000 was the Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick.
Yeah, liquid metal one. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So was that trivia good enough, Paul?
Yeah. Cool. I totally forgot we were talking about Iron Man. So yeah. Do you know what he did in Iron Man?
The suit, I imagine.
Yeah, I imagine he did.
The actual legit robotic parts that they filmed as opposed to CG.
I was just curious.
And of course, you got the Ironmonger in there too, which he would have had a hand in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he also did the hand in the movie The Hand.
Okay,
I'm looking at his IMDb credits, and I don't see the original Alien in there. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
If you go to, I had to go to this. There's like 2 lists on IMDb, and some of them were on the second one.
Oh,
dun, dun, dun.
Like Iron Man.
He has makeup, and then he has special effects.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let me look.
I hadn't thought about any of his makeup work until you mentioned Batman Returns there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now you got me looking up for Alien who the designer was. So let me look that up while everyone else is looking up other things.
You're welcome, guys.
Oh my gosh. So production design on Alien was Michael Seymour. Art direction was Roger Christian, Leslie Dilley. Let's see. Makeup department, Pat Hay, Tommy Matterson, Sarah Monazzi. I'm not seeing anything for the necessarily the Alien.
Is a real alien.
Oh, well, Alien design is
alien.
H.R. Geiger, yeah.
But the actual making of a physical alien doesn't say. It was a real alien.
Let's see.
It was probably
okay. No. Coordinator for the alien effects was Clinton Cavers. Additional alien mechanics was Carlo de Marquise. Maker of the small alien forms was Roger Dicken. Let's see. Creator the alien head effects, Carlo Rambaldi. So lots of people worked on it.
Yeah.
I want to know who's responsible for making the big Iron Man suit that the Tron guy was in that looked like the Iron Giant.
The Ironmonger?
Yeah. That's my first dislike.
We're not there yet, Paul.
I'm tired of talking about this. We're talking about Iron Man. Let's talk about Iron Man.
Let's talk about what people remembered about Iron Man. How about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Gosh.
Great trivia, Francisco.
Thank you, Paul.
And now that we've all had some trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, our rad rewinders, had about Iron Space Man.
Yes. So Stephen Forrester starts this by saying, if you say it's anything less than a classic, you're going straight to hell. Wow.
It's HE double hockey sticks.
I'm sorry. Yes. HE double hockey sticks. My bad.
Even though it's been said several times. But anyway, Dustin Warford says, the start of the Juggernaut, known as the MCU. I thought that was the start of the Juggernaut was in...
Juggernauts?
Or never mind. We already made that joke. Anyways, Dustin Warford goes on to say, and a classic all the way.
David Gardner says, a movie that was self-contained if it flopped, but starred the teaser if it didn't.
Well, it didn't technically start the teaser, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Too bad they didn't follow through in all their movies. Anyway, Wardell White says Robert Downey Jr. is what I remember. He was the classic maker of the movie. I thought he was superb as Tony Stark. For a movie that was about a man searching for a heart, the movie had a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it? The Tin Man looking for a heart.
Who Will Save Generation X podcast says, I remember how Terrence Howard missed out on a chance to be War Machine because he was grumpy about his contract. He really did end up in the Hum Drum V. And it could have been in the Fun V after all. 100% classic.
That's too true.
Yeah.
Dave Mattingly says, yeah, that's right. He can fly.
Andrew Simpson says,
I am Iron Man.
Roll credits.
Benjamin T. Van Dypen,
I think.
All right. Please, no gang signs.
I'm
No,
kidding.
go ahead. It's cool.
Yeah. Kennethan says,
can we just mention the fact that he mentions, I don't want to see on your MySpace page?
Oh, yeah. That was pretty funny.
That made me feel old real fast.
Exactly. That's why this is retro.
Yeah.
Ken says, who is Iron Man? As an X-Men fan, I was not aware of other Marvel heroes, especially Iron Man. So Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr., this did revive his career after he cleaned himself up. This was a pleasant surprise and a classic movie. I did a rewatch of all the MCU movies and rated them with Super Chow and Mr. Potato on Hear Me Out. That was a Twitch show he used to do. This movie aged better than the others, and it is even more of a classic now than when it first came out.
Oh, wow. So you don't need to watch all the MCU, just this one.
Apparently.
All right. Cool Deluxe, our game correspondent, says definitely 100% classic. The best Marvel movie there is.
And
you hear that, Howard the Duck?
And Dustin Warford also says, Francisco, okay, I know we have our disagreements on films, but if you go less than a classic on this one, it's a declaration of war.
Uh-oh. Are those bombs going to be made by Stark?
The Jericho.
Yeah. He only has to fire it once.
Exactly.
That's the way his dad did it. That's the way America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
Oh, my word. I'm not following what you're saying in the chat, Free Hugs, but I'm sure it's funny. Let's see. But thank you, everyone, Rewinders, for sharing your memories. And you know what, Dustin, maybe we will go to war based on the things we didn't like about Iron Man. I'll spin up our dislikes.
Worst woos.
Alrighty, let's begin with, I'm going to start with Daryl again. What's something you disliked about Iron Man?
All right, so there was not a lot to dislike, but one of the things, maybe it's one of those small things that I miss that maybe they showed.
Mm-hmm.
But the scene when Obadiah catches Pepper downloading those files.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I don't know if she hits a button or something. I never understood how that screen went back to the screensaver.
Yeah, she does click on a thing for the screensaver.
Yeah, she clicks on that screensaver. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I always missed that, I guess.
Oh.
So, dude comes around the corner. I'm like, that takes 3-4 minutes or whatever of, idling.
Yeah.
How? Movie magic?
No,
I missed something being clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you know what? I don't recall 100%. It may be just the sound of a key or something.
No,
I don't
you
know.
see a mouse go over a word that says screensaver, and then a click, and then it goes to the
Windows used to have that. You could actually put a mouse to a certain corner and activate your screensaver. It's nice to know, though, Daryl, that you don't know how to hide your screen from somebody, so you've never been looking at something you shouldn't be. Good for you.
Yeah, there you go.
That man's playing Galaga or something.
Yeah. But no, like I said, it's one of those super small critique-y type things, but I never saw the mouse go up or anything, so I'm like,
it happens real fast. I don't think I caught it until this last time I was watching. I was like,
right, I'll have to look closer, but I'm just like, yes, you need movie magic, but let's make it a little more like she leaves the screen alone the whole time he's talking to her or something, but when you can see it, and I'm just like, okay,
That's
plot
convenient.
armor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, sort of speaking to the things we see and don't see, I'll go with one of my dislikes. And this I alluded to how I liked almost all the effects. But that chonky arc reactor that was apparently a publicity stunt or whatever, that just does not look good. It just looks so...
Like the CG?
Yeah, the CG of it. It looks all
it's still
weirdly proportioned. It's just strange looking. It doesn't look...
That's one of the effects that doesn't hold up today.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it was meant to be that way because it was supposed to have been something just made to make the hippies shut up, So
but
it was supposed to look bad compared to like when Tony makes that smaller one and miniaturizes it, which looked awesome and high tech. But it's like, you have this clunky one so you have the idea that maybe they had this thing that it works. It looks like garbage, but nobody really understands the technology to make it any better than it was. So,
but
it kind of worked.
It didn't look real though, and in contrast with an Iron person in an Iron Man suit that is very unbelievable yet looks very real. Yeah. It was. I mean, maybe that's the contrast they were going for, but it pulled me out of the movie. It's almost like they were looking at almost like an old video game on a big
sci-fi
screen.
Is what I would think.
What was that?
Like a 60s sci-fi movie is what it looks like. Yes,
exactly. Yes, that's what it felt like. So that I didn't care for that, and that I as opposed to the clicking on a screensaver button, I was very aware of this big arc reactor thing. So that's something I didn't care for. Let's go to Jeremy next. What's something you didn't like about Iron Man?
I had to do some digging, but if there was anything that was jarring the first time I saw this in the theaters, I love Jeff Bridges, but I didn't need to see him shirtless. I'm sorry. When he shows up on the phone, it's like,
is that a requirement for all Marvel movies, or at least half of them? Is somebody shirtless in there?
When is he shirtless?
When you see when Tony calls him on the phone, when you get in the flashback, and he's like asking how the Jericho sale thing went, and he pops up on the phone, and it's like, oh, hey, that's more on me because
is he in bed?
Yeah, he's in bed.
Yeah, when he's there in bed. I'm sorry, it's creepy.
Okay.
I didn't need to see it. I understand, like, okay, he's on the other side of the world. It's late. He's going to sleep.
Yeah.
But couldn't he not wear some pajamas or something? Because, I mean, the first time we get to see Jeff Bridges in this movie really is that. And I'm sorry, it was jarring in the movie theater, and it's got to be my number one dislike.
I would insert some Big Lebowski joke in here, but I've never seen it, so I can't really. The dude
that's just like your opinion,
with no
man.
shirt. Yeah, something like that. Yes, exactly.
I'm one of them rare people that would tell you I would not recommend the Big Lebowski because wow,
I wouldn't either.
We'll probably have to cover it at some point, though.
I'm sorry,
but no, that's fine. Let's go to Paul next. Did you also not like Obadiah shirtless?
No, I didn't like him in the big Iron Giant ripoff suit. I said, but one of the things that threw me out also is, or at least took me out of the film, is there's a couple points where I believe Tony should have died. Like when he comes flying out of the cave in the big original suit.
Yep.
And at that angle and that speed hitting the sand.
He's dead, or highly crippled. Like if Rhodey and spoilers for, I think, Civil War, if that breaks his back, a very similar trajectory and stuff, and Tony's fine, I don't believe it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
plot armor.
And
exactly.
we talked earlier about, I think it was Jeremy brought up when he was testing the ice and he's falling back, and I know for dramatic purposes you wanted to like save at the last minute when you're about to hit the street. But to me, it was like, no, you're falling too far, too fast. You're there's no way you could pull up. But
I would have been much better if he had pulled up not right like inches away from the street. I feel like it would have been a little bit more real if it was like maybe at street light height or something like that, just a little bit higher up,
higher like building height. But then he still had to like pull it up.
Yeah, that would have been good. Yes,
like even like skim the street a little, try to pull it up from there.
That would have been cool. Yes.
Yeah,
just enough to disturb traffic.
Exactly. Yes,
and make a kid drop his ice cream.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's totally fair, though, Paul. Let's go back to Daryl. What's something else you didn't like? Should Tony have died in this movie? Is that something you didn't like that he lived?
Nah, I hadn't thought of that. But I guess knowing what she becomes I thought Pepper in this was, for the most part, her role was small and just like, I guess because I know how integral she becomes later, to just see her as the token girlfriend, give her one scene, it's just sad to see. Like one
moment of a scene, like
one moment when she
moment.
Oh, is that what we're talking about? I'm like, she's in lots of scenes. I'm not sure.
No. I meant like she gets to be the hero for one moment where she's downloading the files. But like,
okay.
Other than that, it's just a romantic scene, or like she's the maid, for lack of a better term, and that's basically what she is until the end. But it's just because I know how much of a character she becomes. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, I had to dig to find things I didn't like, but I would have loved to see her. I would have loved to see her be a more significant part in it.
Well, I will say, let's see. I'm trying to think if this will get into something I didn't like. Okay, well, I'll say this. Something I didn't like was that's on my list, but probably isn't enough. I didn't really care for the scene where she's pulling out the wire and then plucks out the magnet or whatever. That was just gross.
I'm going cardiac arrest now because you pulled too much.
I feel like it went on too long. Of all the whole movie, that was the only scene that I felt like, okay, can we just continue on? I don't need to be here for this. But I will say, as a result of that, something I think that we don't. It's not seen, but it's implied that is a heroic thing and really shows a lot of compassion on Pepper's part, is that she makes that as a keepsake for Tony, and that ends up being the thing that allows him to win in the end.
Yeah,
so I think
that's cool.
That is heroic, though it's not on screen necessarily. It's more implied. But I get what you're saying there. All right, Jeremy, what's something else you didn't like?
Okay, and this may be a criticism of Hollywood in general. Okay, because I mentioned before, the soundtrack is pretty good on this, but we have some themes that don't continue throughout the series. One thing I've noted, like, I mean, when we were discussing Danny Elfman's Batman and his Spider-Man, you have character themes and stuff that really jump out, and they were part of movie scores, but it seems over the last 15 years, we've gone away from that to where you don't notice the score in movies, and you don't really. Oh, was there a character theme? Like, with the Tom Holland Spider-Man, I didn't even realize for a long time they were trying to give him the '60s theme as an instrumental theme for the character.
Oh,
it's like it's been faded, and so now
it's so buried in there.
It's buried into the mix, and Hollywood seems now to where they just want you to set a little of a mood, but they don't want you to notice when you look at some classic films. Let's look at Star Wars, the original one. And we'll call it A New Hope if you don't understand what I mean. You have moments where Luke goes out to look at the twin suns where the music is allowed to convey emotion. We don't get that anymore. We don't just pause to let the music help tell the story anymore. And so that's one of the things. This is one of the last times that I think the music had something to do with it, but it didn't give us an Iron Man theme that was able to carry on into the next few films.
All
right. And that's sad.
That's great, Jeremy. But what is that's a comment on all movies for the past 20 years.
But see, this is an Iron Man movie that didn't really give us a theme.
Oh yeah,
for Iron
100%
Man.
Agree with you. We need John Williams now more than ever.
John Williams. I mean, we had music that fit for the movie, and they composed stuff for the movie, but we didn't have those character themes. Like this motif represents this character.
Unfortunately, I'm there with you, but I've talked with a lot of the younger generations, and they think it's too over the top, and they prefer these mood pieces.
Yeah.
It's sad. Poor generation doesn't know what they're missing.
Yeah, exactly.
They really don't.
Yeah, I feel like 300 had a theme that I can sort of remember how it goes. I can kind of hum it. But the last real epic movies that had a hummable theme where I feel like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Back in the late or early 2000s. Yeah. But
this is Sparta!
Exactly. That was a great song.
Oh my gosh. Banana.
The lyrics were really easy to remember.
Oh my gosh. Let's go. Actually, Paul, you had mentioned how Tony, you didn't like that. There are all these moments where he should have died. That was your first dislike, right?
Yeah.
My next dislike is kind of the opposite of that.
He should have lived.
Well, no.
We're jumping a few
I
movies
didn't
ahead.
understand. I mainly didn't understand the drama in a couple places around his heart. Like, so I thought Jensen had set up toward the beginning.
Yeah.
The reason it has this magnet is to keep the shrapnel from going into his heart. Because when other people that he's worked on have had that, they're the Walking Dead because they're alive for a week. Yeah.
Right.
And so there's all these moments throughout, especially toward the very end when Obadiah takes out his arc reactor, where it's almost like he's about to die and like he's on death's door. But I'm like, doesn't he have a week?
Right.
Why are we so dramatic about this?
Right.
Right.
I think, well, that's also my second dislike
Oh,
because
okay.
it wasn't clear
Yeah.
on that. So what I took, and this is just speculation, I had to guess, is that when Jensen put the first thing in his in the cave, he had to take part of the heart out. I don't know.
Oh.
I'd hope not, because that'd kill you.
Well, that's why.
Right. Right.
I don't understand why when taking it out, it doesn't. A, it either doesn't kill him, or B, he's fine for a couple of days. It should be one of the two.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's for dramatic purposes, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if
yeah,
he's not
'cause-
nearly dying, it's not near as dramatic when he's going down trying to save himself, and the robot
get it. I
finally does
just
something
wish
smart.
it was better explained.
Yes,
so I
exactly.
understand
Right.
the stakes.
Exactly.
It's just one of those you have to
Later,
just
he
go
doesn't
with it, you know.
He doesn't
Yeah.
need the arc reactor later.
Yeah, after he gets the surgery and gets it all fixed up later.
Yeah, he
what
doesn't
was it,
even
the
need
third one?
that. So to say that he took part of his heart wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, it just, again, I think we just want a little bit more explanation of like, okay, what timetable are we working with before the shrapnel kills him? So, anyway, that was both me and Paul's next dislike, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I guess that leaves our tragic makers, the things we liked the
Darn it,
least.
that was my tragic.
Oh.
Sorry. I misread my notes.
Well, you'll give us your other one then, Paul. Why don't you start us off with your dislike then, your other dislike?
This is a minor quibble, but there were scenes where Tony was just rattling off some techno babble like to Jarvis and stuff. But there were many scenes where he's just rattling off some stuff like, I don't know what that means. Like, this movie could have been 20 minutes shorter if it weren't for all those, like, him rattling off stuff. Just get to it. Yes, he's talking. Move. Next. It's like
20 minutes? I think that's a bit much.
Well, there was a lot of technobabble. There were many scenes that I was like, again with this? Come on.
I didn't pick up on that, really. I know that happened, but it didn't distract me apparently like it did you. So
okay. Never mind.
Okay.
Well, sometimes you have to dig deep to find those things you don't like.
Fair, that's fair. All right. So that was Paul's dislike / tragic maker from before. Daryl, what's your tragic maker for Iron Man?
I decided I think they revealed Obadiah a little too early.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think it would have been cooler is instead of him basically telling Tony, I'm the one that locked you out and all these things.
Yeah, I don't know why he
party.
did that. That's so confusing, but continue.
Right.
Please.
I think it might have been cooler is if, like, maybe at that scene, Obadiah's like, I'll look into it, Tony, and, like, let's find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then leave it there. And then when Obadiah gets out of the SUV with the 10 Rings guys, I think would have been a cooler, like,
transition to that.
Yeah, so like
it before. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like I don't remember if that was like the next scene or a couple scenes later, but instead of doing this, I'll call it rather anticlimactic. Oh yeah, I'm actually the villain here, buddy. Blah blah blah. I'm like, kind of weak. So like I think it would have been cooler if you don't find out till he's the one that steps out of the SUV to talk to the 10 Rings.
Yeah. I think it would have been more dramatic if he seems like he's so helpful to Tony. He's such a great friend. And then and then there's this ear thing that Tony's experiencing, and when he pulls out the arc reactor, that's when we find out he's the bad guy. I think that would have been even
that
more interesting.
Too.
But
it did make sense why he would tell them that in front of the reporters taking photos. Like, it was me that was after you. Like, what? He's too smart of a guy to do that.
Right.
You know?
Well, I see kind of why they did it for storytelling purposes, because you kind of get the idea that, Tony is improving the suit, but he doesn't, he's not wanting to make any weapons. Mm-hmm. And maybe he didn't have the idea that he was going to use the suit in that way until after having the reporters show him where the weapons are at, and then having Obadiah kind of go in there. Then he starts to get an idea of like, wait a minute, Obadiah seems to be part of the problem, to where he's mad and angry enough that he's going to put that suit on and go and violate military airspace and do what he does. I think it's part of that tension that builds up on him to make that decision, because I don't think he had meant to do what he was going to do and become the full Iron Man that we know.
Mm-hmm. No, but that news story would be enough if he felt connected to it.
Yeah, and he would have felt connected. But I think having in there knowing that Obadiah, he couldn't even trust him. He can't trust anybody in his company with knowing his weapons were getting out there. And Obadiah is probably one of the ones that's been doing it under the table. So, because I think then he asked Obadiah directly, are we dealing under the table?
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah, that's right.
He does ask Obadiah. So he wants to know, who is it that's been selling his weapons? Because, he's used to, as he says, running a company with no accountability, and that was a problem. But now knowing that the guy that you trusted most, that was your father's best friend and partner, is the one doing it, that adds tension to make him like, I'm going to do something about this because I can, and I'm going to go blow up a tank, which is the most coolest thing ever with that tiny little rocket.
Yeah, it brings me to Captain America: First Avenger. I didn't see Jeff Bridges in there.
What?
Yeah, he maybe should have shown up somewhere, like a young version of Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Tony's
like
dad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, maybe they could have snuck him in. Yeah. That'd have been cool. That'd have been a nice throwback.
Yeah.
We could have seen him shirtless again. No kidding.
Wow. Let's go to Jeremy for your Tragic Maker. What did you hate?
I got to pull back up here on my notes on my phone. Okay, my Tragic Maker is, and I was hyped at first when I saw it, but then realized what they're doing, because instantly when I hear 10 Rings, my brain went, the Mandarin? The Mandarin? I mean, especially if you watch the animated series from the 90s. Yeah. I wanted to see a Mandarin, and I was like, cool. And I thought, well, maybe we're just doing different. Maybe the bald guy is going to be like the Mandarin, because he was always adjusting your ring. I'm like, ooh, and I don't feel like we really got the payoff of the Mandarin until Shang-Chi, and we didn't even get the proper rings out of it. We got a different take on the rings.
I think the Mandarin shows up in Iron Man 3.
But it's not a real Mandarin, is it?
Well, if you want a real Mandarin, you gotta go down the street to Panda Express or something.
Chinese Express. But I would love to have gotten an actual Mandarin where it's a guy who found an alien metal, which would have worked. We did establish aliens in the Marvel Cinematic Universe who had gotten like the alien metal and made the rings that gave him all this power. That would have been awesome. But I felt like we got a tease that we were going to get it, and then we almost, but not really got it. And even though Ben Kingsley, his performance when he's supposed to be a Mandarin, but he's not the Mandarin, he gives a great performance, but it's still it was lacking. And that was even some friends of mine that were so angry about that when he pops out to be Trevor. They were like, "Oh, we almost thought we were going to get close to a Mandarin, but then we get Trevor, and the real bad guy is this dude."
Yeah,
that was a disappointment. That stuck with us through several movies of like, "Oh, cool, 10 Rings. We're going to have a Mandarin, please." Somewhere
that's the long game. I love how that was teased for, even like when this popped up here. I'm like, that's so cool that it was dropped here. But it hurt. It hurt. We'd love to have seen the Mandarin. It's like seeing Batman and then you tease the Joker, but you never get around to the Joker until 5 movies later.
Yeah, that would be frustrating. Yeah. But I always felt like they always use the Joker too soon in Batman properties. But
maybe. Yeah.
All right, before we get to my Tragic Maker, Dale makes a funny one. I mean, I think he's being serious, but he says his Tragic Maker is the fight with Obadiah is too much a ripoff of RoboCop 2. All right, that's fair. On that note, Tony being built in the Mark II suit is very much a ripoff of the StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty trailer. So if you're going to go watch that, it's very similar. So
it's probably Jon Favreau liked it too.
Probably yes. Though actually, now that StarCraft 2 may have come out after, so maybe I can't remember which one came first, but I have this feeling that I remember like, wait, Iron Man did this and StarCraft 2 did it first. But regardless, my tragic maker for Iron Man.
StarCraft 2 was released 2010.
Okay, so I guess this would have been after. Okay, so boom, I got here. But my tragic maker is that I thought the whole way, I didn't like how the final confrontation went down. I really thought, I love when the hero outsmarts the villain, and that's how they win. Yeah. And so I thought it was great. It was genius that Tony's like, okay, let's go up as high as we can. This is the last of the power I have. Go up as high as I can, because he probably didn't solve the icing problem. And that would ice Obadiah out. He would fall to his death. And that way, Tony's not having to kill him at all. He just falls on his own sword in a way. I think that would have been a much better way to beat. What's his
Ironmonger.
Ironmonger, yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would have been so much better. I hate that he is like, oh, I'm back all of a sudden, and now we're gonna fight some more, and then let's go. We somehow fell right where the arc reactor is, right where we were before. We're right back there, somehow falling from the sky, no wind current or anything. We're just going right back to where we were. I just thought
my wife saw this with me, and she thought it was unbelievable that when the arc reactor blew by Pepper, when she hit the button or whatever, that it took out Obadiah but not Tony.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I just felt like that. Here's what they could have done. I wish they would have flipped it. Maybe try to get the arc reactor and it misses them both, and then Tony has to, as a backup, okay, let's just go up as high as we can, and that's how he ends it. I think that would have been so much more satisfying than the way they did it. So.
Also, going up with Stain chasing him, I thought, this is ridiculous. Why would this? I didn't believe that Obadiah would keep trying to go up. It's like, all right, I'll just wait for him to come down, kind of a thing.
I think, he's sort of enraged with bloodlust by that point.
But it was so long, even I was getting bored. Like, come on.
No, what you don't know, it's like the Yellow Jacket suit. It changes your mind chemistry, because he's not using the pin particle. He's using something else. And so that's no, I'm totally.
It's plot convenience.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my tragic maker for Iron Man. But now that
fair point.
Thank you. Yeah. I think so too. But now that we've entered all our trajectories into the firing computer, Alice, do you have a firing solution for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo armed and ready to fire on your mark.
To the Salvo Authority.
It was never Salvo Authority, Paul.
Well, if you go back for about 200 episodes, it's been about a Salvo Authority.
Gosh. Well, it's armed and at the ready now. Make your peace with it. It's not lies, Bobo.
Guess the reactor went off and there's no more Salvo Authority.
All right, guys, it's time for the moment of truth. Do we rate Iron Man a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see this, whether or not they've seen it before. A nostalgic, if you remember watching it back in 2008 and you enjoyed it then, you'll probably enjoy it now. Give it a rewatch. You'll have fun. But if you've never seen it before, go watch something else. Or do we rate it a tragic? It's not worth anyone's time today. If you've never seen it before, definitely keep it that way. And if you have seen it before, don't sully any good memories you have of it with a rewatch. So we'll begin with our guests as we like to. Daryl, thank you for picking this. You had predicted classic. Did it end up as a classic for you, or did it fall in your eyes?
It definitely stayed a classic. It's just a great all-around movie.
Mm-hmm. Stayed classic.
I mean, when you have to search for tragic makers, it's kind of a telltale sign that it's pretty darn good.
Totally get that. Salvo Authority or nothing, Paul. Really? Anyway, Jeremy, you had predicted classic as well. In fact, we all predicted classic. What was your final rating, though?
It's definitely still a classic, as was mentioned before. This launched the MCU, and this also took a Marvel character that I didn't realize most people had no idea that Iron Man even existed.
Yeah,
how this movie came out.
I should say I knew only because he was a character in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, the video game.
Well, there you go.
That's the only reason I knew.
But for the most of the wide world, outside of nerds like me, there's people who didn't know Iron Man existed, and that caught me completely off guard. Like, you didn't know about Iron Man? Really? I mean, there's been cartoons.
And I knew about Iron Man, and I'm like, really? He's like a B character, but okay.
I was excited even going in. I was like, oh, this could potentially be something cool. And we'd never seen a movie of Iron Man before. So it was the risk of like, let's put a character out there that nobody knows because he's not Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, or an X-Man, or even the Incredible Hulk. And let's see how it does. And to have this movie do as well as it did because it was this good, that they were able to, Disney jumps in and says, this is a viable property. And suddenly now you got the money of Disney backing you up to where they were actually able to go and do the full MCU to the extent that it could be done, despite we won't talk about what they've done with it since Endgame. But I mean, we did have a few good movies along the way, but since Endgame. But I mean, well, having the powerhouse of Disney behind it was a boost to it. And I mean, heck, that's part of what my podcast was for a good long time when I was a Disney show called Neverland Podcast. And there was so much good Marvel coming out with that I was excited all the time, and it was fantastic. And it all starts with this classic movie.
Those were the days.
Well,
those were the days.
Isildur had the Ring of Power for a time before it betrayed him. So, I mean, Disney is the Ring of Power in this example. Yes, Disney is Sauron. That is the example I am drawing. In case you didn't hear.
Mickey understands.
Oh my gosh. the Dark Lord Mouse. Yes. Okay. Anyway, then from our reflex capacitors, thank you all for voting on this. You collectively rated Iron Man a classic as well. So we have 3 classics so far. Paul, we got be part of the people that hated this movie. Come on, give me a tragic.
I didn't have any problem coming up with things that I didn't like about this, but maybe that's because I'm used to it. But honestly, I'm gonna have to agree with when Tony said this in the movie.
I've been called many things. Nostalgic is not one of them.
Nostalgic's not one of them, and this movie is not as nostalgic as it is classic.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
So classic from you then.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I would recommend this to anybody. And my goodness, when he shoots that tank and turns away,
it's so good. That's so good.
That right there, that moment is the best of the whole, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's not an action movie until you walk away from an explosion. And the fact that caused it with such a tiny little missile into that tank. It was so great.
Let me dodge your shot. Oh, and tiny shot.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he turns before he knows.
I'll take mine.
Exactly, because he knows that's it. You're done.
For anyone who got that actual comic reference, thank you.
Oh, I didn't. What was the reference? I didn't hear you, Jeremy.
You've taken your shot now, bub. It's time for mine. We're dealing with the Hellfire Club and Wolverine at one point when we're launching into the Dark Phoenix song. And that's like the final shot of one particular issue where Wolverine his mass has been increased and been dropped down into the sewer, and he pops out of the water and is like, "You've had your shot, bub, and now I'm going to take mine." And that's your teaser for the next issue where Wolverine goes ham and tears through a bunch of bad guys. That's awesome. Yes, we're going back to the 80s with that one.
Very
it's good to have a comic nerd when you talk Iron Man.
Indeed.
There you go.
Let's see. Also, I'll just say in chat, Dale says classic. Sean rates it classic. Free hugs, even though he's lurking and working, he also votes it classic. So lots of classics. So I guess I'm going to be the lone wolf here. That goes
dude's going to come find you.
Everyone else, because all you are just like loving Iron Man so much. But did you see how this ended? I just told you guys how it is a horrible ending of they should have flipped it. It's so frustrating, but not frustrating enough to make it anything other than classic. So I will. Yeah. I know you probably all saw that coming, but Jeremy's like, I saw that coming. Fine, Jeremy, whatever.
You've pulled that one before.
Well, it's like Obadiah. Why would they reveal it so soon? Well, I guess I pulled an Obadiah, I guess. Sure. But I had a lot.
I thought you were talking about the ending because Nick Fury showed up at the end. I'm like, heck yeah, Nick Fury. I cannot tell you how excited I got with that final scene. They were talking about an Avengers initiative. I was going down all my friends like, oh my gosh, did he said the Avengers? He said the Avengers. Oh my God.
But
I
yeah,
was nerding out big time.
I enjoyed this watch very much. It was very fun. I'm so something that I've noticed. If I fall asleep while watching a movie, it's probably going to be nostalgic or tragic. But if I'm so like enjoying the movie that I don't write many notes and I have to like write notes after the fact because I'm engrossed in the movie, that's probably going to be a classic. And that's what happened.
I figured
this time.
out why it didn't feel like 2 hours for you because you were probably watching on 2x speed.
I was not watching at 2x speed.
Well, you either fall asleep or watch at 2x speed. It's got to be one of those.
No, it doesn't. I do watch the
maybe both.
If this were Young Indiana Jones or Young Iron Man, maybe I'd watch it at 2x speed, but it wasn't. I watched it clean, normal speed. Oh my gosh. But according to the Retro Rewind podcast, we rate Iron Man from 2008 a unanimous classic film. We'd recommend anyone go watch this, whether or not you've seen it before. But now it's time to get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
20XX?
ComSat Online. Awaiting incoming transmissions.
All right. Feels good to be back, but we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 2008 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Deborah Powers, Geek Devotions, Drew the Cellcast, Ashley Ruiz, Kennethan, Fabulous Lomax, That's Our Babo, D. Tungsten, Mr. Lost, Daryl Hafner. Oh, you're right here. Cool Deluxe, Dustin, He's a Big Deal Warford, Flux, Redeemed Otaku, in addition to 2 other patrons as well. Thank you so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to keep us flying and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to start.
I'm not out saving the galaxy or fighting my brother. I enjoy streams like this one. Sponsored by PaulJPowers.com.
Thanks, Thor.
That's pretty good.
So cool that I didn't think we would be able to use that so soon, but thanks to all you supporters out there. And hey, Francisco, is there any way for our supporters to support us in a non-monetarily way?
You call on dang it.
The Avengers.
Well, no, I was thinking, what's the guy who's Idris Elba and Thor? Something
Oh yeah, the Rainbow Road where Mario falls off.
Yeah. Heimdall,
that's it. I was going to say Colin Heimdall, but I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, Paul, there is a way to support the show without, if you're a little light in your wallet. You probably enjoyed this episode if you've made it this far. So if you aren't driving, tap the share icon in your podcast player for this episode and send it to a friend saying, I know you like Iron Man or the MCU maybe, so I thought you would enjoy this podcast on it.
Cool.
Or if you enjoyed the sounds of my sultry voice.
Indeed. Yeah. That too. I know you like the Spider-Pan, so here's a podcast with him in it.
Yeah. I'll bet they'll thank you for it.
I bet so.
And it's all thanks to this microphone. This is a really great microphone. It's making it sound tons better than I do in real life.
And look, it says Stark Enterprises on the side.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
it is a Jericho RE20.
Oh, no. Just don't speak too loud. You might set something off. And speaking of thanking people, we want to give a big virtual iron hug to Daryl Hafner and Jeremy Spider-Pan for sharing their thoughts and supporting us about Iron Man. So actually they're supporting us and sharing their thoughts about Iron Man. So switch that around. But I'd like to know how people can get in touch with you if they want to. And is there anything cool you got going on that they should know about? So we'll start alphabetically with Daryl.
Forgot the alphabet for a minute there, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Sorry. So, Daryl, how can people find you if you want to be found? And is there anything cool you got going on that you want people to know about? If not, that's cool too.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can find me on Facebook, if nowhere else on the Retro Rewind page. I have a personal account, but that's about it. If you're in the Michigan, Port Huron, Detroit area, next month I will be in the Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh, very cool.
At the local community theater.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote about you in the diary? Oh, no.
Absolutely.
It was going to be a diary. Okay.
Absolutely.
The diary's over there.
Yeah. No, actually, I had rehearsal today. So.
Oh, cool.
So I had rehearsal and came home, had about an hour, and then I did this. So.
Very, very nice.
But yeah, we actually open 5th of July.
Okay.
So that'll be fun.
Nice.
So if anybody's in the area, you got a couple weeks, I think, after this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You could make it because we run 3 weekends.
Oh,
so.
okay. Nice.
So it's the 5th through the 21st, I think, whatever that Sunday is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so it'd be cool.
Very cool. Awesome.
A lot of fun. So yeah.
That's your line, Francis.
No, you have to say Jeremy.
Yeah.
It says FXR. Thank you, Daryl. And Jeremy.
Yeah, that's after you've gone through all the guests and saying, hey, Jeremy, do you have anything you want to
well, that's where I miss. I think, sorry, folks. We run off a show note that I was getting confused on. I think a little take home is that we should maybe clear that up a little.
Okay.
But maybe not. I mean, it's been 300 episodes. Why change it? Anyway. Right. So thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. For more fun, of course, with me, you can visit, because as I mentioned before, the show used to be called the Neverland Podcast, and I've just never changed my domain. So neverlandpodcast.com. There you can find links and ways onto Facebook, where I have a group and a fan page. We have a lot more fun in the group because I can interact a lot more than that. Also, of course, we're on YouTube under Neverland Podcast or the Fandom Nexus. I think you can find us as the Fandom Nexus on YouTube now. I also have the Neverland official gaming channel. If you like to watch gaming videos, I have a lot of videos. I keep posting content over there. Lately, I've been posting a lot of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and also some of the WWE 2K. I've got some footage of that popping up there. So just some fun gaming fun. Any way you want to have some fun with me, there's a way to find me.
Very cool.
Gaming, do you have like Mega Man where he's fighting Iron Man?
Well, there was the Iron Man and Exo Manowar game back on PlayStation. Is that what you're maybe referring to?
No,
where
just
they did
when Mega Man
he
fights bad guys, they all end in man. Like they're all like Waterman and Cutman and all this thing.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have gotten away with an Iron Man at that point.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway,
I didn't play much Mega Man. I am terrible. I am terrible at Mega Man. I completely stink at it. So I've not played a lot of it since the old days. So
totally fair.
I still am not good at it because if you played the old Darkwing Duck game, it plays very similar. I can't get past the first level of Darkwing Duck either.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's such a cool game, but I'm so bad at that.
Well, we're not going to get dangerous, but I want to thank you so much, Daryl and Jeremy Spider-Pan. We also want to thank Alutrick for enhancing our music. Find him at alutrick.bandcamp.com or youtube.com/@Alutrick. That's spelled ALLOOUTRICK, then the number 8266 for the YouTube. So thank you so much to him. And of course, I also want to thank a big thank you to the Iron Man, to my cap, PaulJPowers.com. And also all you rewinders, new and old, for another fun voyage.
You're welcome, Captain. And you can find me, PaulJPowers.com at PaulJPowers.com.
Oh, .com. Okay, that's what it is.
I never saw that coming.
And you can find me on our Discord for show announcements or just to say hi. Join us there at RetroRewindPodcast.com/Discord. Or if you want to find out more about Junkyard Juggernauts, go to junkyardjuggernauts.com.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box, a curated collection of podcasts, videos, and articles that will provide you a balanced meal of content. You will find culture celebrated for its past and future, satirized for its extremes, explored in study, and created anew in story. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
You know, I've had the thought that maybe I should hop from Weeby Geeks over to Culture Box and move my show over, because I think Culture Box is a bit more focused on the new themes than my show, where I've had a little bit more of a spiritual content. I've kind of wondered if maybe I should contact somebody over there.
You might want to contact someone over there at Culture Box.
I've thought about it because I've heard some like Culture Box. Like, this seems like more my speed of what I'm doing these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And as Jarvis just said, we are now part of the Culture Box Media Network. Find all the shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media. Maybe you could join too. There might be an initiative.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word. Thank you, EXO, and thank you all for listening. We really do pray that you are more joyful today than when you first hit play. But like in Pokemon, we got to catch you all for Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, yay.
Oh, really?
On our next adventure of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to base to await next mission.
Will that be all, Mr. Stark?
That will be all, Miss Potts.